This Fleet Equipment Unscripted interview is presented by Hendrickson, a leading manufacturer of heavy-duty suspension systems and components to the global commercial transportation industry. Visit hendrickson-intl.com to learn more.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Athey, Product Marketing Manager at Volvo Trucks, and welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted. Today, I'm going to be talking with Jason Morgan, the editor of Fleet Equipment. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me, Jason.
Thanks, Allison, for having me on my own show, I guess. This is a weird position to be in. I'm ready for your questions.
Yes, we're going to have a little bit of fun flipping the script today where I get to ask all the questions. So to kind of kick it off a little bit, Jason, last time we were together, we talked about covering Volvo Trucks' new turbo compound engine with, all the fuel efficiency benefits that it brings to the market, along with some aerodynamic packages. So speaking of the TC, it's actually one of Volvo's game-changing innovations they're promoting for the 25th anniversary of the VNL. But moving a little beyond that, what other, fuel efficiency items are you seeing in the industry that are being talked about? What's going on?
Yeah, so well, good question. So the conversation, I think, holistically with the industry around fuel efficiency really is how much everything is integrated, right? Especially with the new GHG 21 engines coming out. It's really a part of the powertrain, plus a part of the aerodynamics, plus all the intelligent features of like adaptive cruise and predictive cruise and all the crazy cool stuff that people such as yourselves are coming up with. It all kind of comes together to create all that fuel efficiency that you're still pulling out of diesel engines. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about sustainability and electric vehicles and other vehicles that are all really cool. But, the fact of the matter is fleets today are still buying diesel trucks. Diesel is still going to be a large part of sustainability plans going forward as we transition as much as we can towards electric vehicles. So I think the conversation is really just still getting to that spec for the application of what's going to give me my most fuel efficient operation, and it's just becoming so much more software and feature integration driven between the engine aerodynamics and the software features.
I like that. I do agree. We are seeing the same thing, and it's taking kind of integration to the next level. Before it was driveline integration, engine and transmission, right? And now it's engine, transmission with all the software in the vehicle and putting it all together in the best way. So now this is what I've been waiting for a while. Speaking of fuel efficiency, here's a trivia question. So do you know who introduced the low profile, really sloped hood into the market and kind of how it shaped the industry?
I'm guessing a certain OEM that you're very close with. Maybe a Volvo Trucks was the first one to do this.
Yeah. I think you're right. It was Volvo Trucks back in 1996 when they introduced the first VN. As we're of course talking about that 25th anniversary of the VNL. But moving maybe beyond fuel efficiency a little bit. Are you seeing anything, because we were talking a little bit about powertrain aero-wise? I mean, what are you seeing aerodynamically in the industry? What trends? What are you thinking about? What are your questions?
Yeah, on aerodynamics, it's always interesting because it's one, like, I'm not really sure how much fleet can impact aero design. I mean, is aero design just aero design and okay, that's the new aerodynamic design, I'll buy that when I buy the new truck? And like, I guess I have a feeling of like, okay, how much power do I have spec'ing a truck to impact fuel efficiency with aerodynamic features? Or is it just baked in because that's the latest and greatest design that OEMs have come up with?
Well, I mean, what do you think? What does your gut feel tell you?
Nah, my gut feel is like that's the best that we can do, and I'm getting the best anyway, so I'll just take whatever the base design is, and that's good enough for aero, right?
No, actually, I think we see a little bit differently on our.
Okay,
I disagree
good,
with your answer.
good.
But at least what we see at Volvo is it can have a really significant impact. Yes, the tractors themselves are very aerodynamic, but those aerodynamic add-ons really add up. I was actually looking at some numbers this morning to talk about this. You know, depending on the cab size and the model and what it's doing, all those features could easily add up to 4% improvement in fuel efficiency, 5%, up to 6% improvement in fuel efficiency. So it all depends on where you are and what you put on. They really have a greater impact than you realize. I mean, so if you're going like 60 miles an hour down the road, overcoming air resistance is consuming 40% of your fuel.
Wow. Okay.
60 miles an hour. So it's the big thing eating up that fuel.
Okay, so as a fleet manager spec'ing it, I have up to 6% control, kind of. I mean, depending on application. That's why I always get a little confused when we talk about, well, this one's X more efficient than the last one, and it's like, well, great, but I mean, it really still comes down to spec'ing your application and looking at these trade-offs almost. I mean, you mentioned cab size. Maybe I want the biggest sleeper, but then maybe that might, if I can get a smaller cab size or a different truck size, that would help on the efficiency side.
Yeah, so that's a great thing to think about. So if you put a day cab with the same aero options next to a large sleeper with the same aerodynamic options, you look at that bumper to back of cab, you know, the sleeper is longer. And so the air, when it goes over the sleeper, up over the hood, over the sleeper section, it's handled in a gentler slope overall because of that, in a gentler manner, meaning that the sleeper is always going to be more aerodynamic than a day cab, basically, when you look at it. So that's what I meant when I said cab size. So it's always something to keep in mind. The larger the sleeper, just by the fact that it's bigger, the slope it's a little longer, bumper to back of cab, there is less drag on it.
Okay, because I would have totally thought the opposite of you have this big chunk of sleeper there. And I know it's all aerodynamically designed, but just more truck means more resistance. And a day cab would have been more, but that is not the case. The sleeper is always going to win out.
Fun fact of the day. And like you mentioned, the application and it's the truck in the end is a tool, right, for what the customer is trying to do. And so that's the number one thing, taking that into account. And then you can look at the aerodynamics as well. And you can only do so much based on what you're doing. You always have to take that into account. And the other thing to think about too, it's not just aerodynamic features. It's there's one more thing that we like to talk about that has a really big impact. Can you take a guess what that is? I'm really liking.
Oh gosh. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm of two minds of it. Obviously, the powertrain integration and components there, and or the software packages you're adding on to those things.
Yeah, oh no, those are two of those. I was actually skipping those because earlier I was going to say it's the wheelbase. The wheelbase.
Too technology minded. That's my pitfall. So yeah,
you were too holistic.
I know. But yeah. I foreshadowed my next question, but okay. So wheelbase, what's the impact there? How does that?
Well, this is a really fun one to talk about because so it's all about the trailer gap. I think everybody is talking about that, right? The trailers are designed to match up to especially with dry vans, you want to have an ideal trailer gap. And if your wheelbase is too long, right, and your fifth wheel can't adjust to get to that trailer gap, you're losing, the rule of thumb is at least 1% in aero for every 12 inches over that ideal trailer gap. So if you get way out there, you're losing all the aerodynamic improvements that you just paid to put those features on your tractor. So it's something to keep in mind.
When you're talking with customers, how much is this in the forefront of their mind in terms of managing these aero features and the benefit while still meeting the needs? Like, how much of this is in that conversation? Is it something that people are aware of, fleet managers, or is it something you have to kind of educate on?
It's a mix of both. Some are very aware and they have, this is my spec to always get the right trailer gap. You know, if you pull the fifth wheel all the way forward, it's the perfect trailer gap, so you can't go too far. And that's, you know, where we suggest. But not everybody is there. It's, you know, different fleets and have different concerns. Oh, what about my, you know, I'm going over these very intense dips. Is it still okay? And then can show them the information where, yes, with your dip clearance, you're still going to be fine. You're not going to hit the deck plates. So there's a lot of points to the conversation to look through what they're doing to make sure it's still going to work.
I see. Okay. All right. Allison Athey, Volvo Trucks representative. I'm taking back control of this interview. I'm asking the questions now and I want answers. So really, you know, one question that I have, and I've kind of alluded to as well, is then looking at kind of the software packages that revolve around the powertrain. And then even I get confused on what different levels offer which features, and then how that adds into efficiency versus safety versus finding the ROI of all of that if I want a everything on kind of solution, right? What are the kind of standout software features that you think are big right now, fleets need to take some time to understand so that they can get the value out of those features?
That's a really good question. There's a lot. You know, software is something to be, it's just software. Don't, you know, it'll take care of itself, but it's really worth that time. I like to talk about the engine torque package, right? We, at least at Volvo, we offer a variety. You can choose our XE high torque or XE economy and things like that. And it's okay for Volvo. XE means it's exceptional efficiency. I'm good. Well, I'll just take the high torque, but the XE economy is more fuel efficient. So it's worth taking that couple minutes to talk about that, to make sure you're looking at the right ones. Because based on what you're doing, there's different offerings. Other things to look at include like the transmission software. I think that's really, I used to be a transmission expert, by the way, my name, give you that. But, you know, looking at the software on the transmission, you know, even it's how you program it, how much it can shift manually versus automatically versus, you know, having, say, IC, Volvo Trucks Predictive Cruise Control, all of that really adds up. I joke it's looking in all the dark corners for the fuel efficiency. It's, you don't want to leave any stone unturned, especially with software. I mean, it's something that's really easy to put on a vehicle. So, you know, why not spend the time talking about it to make sure you can do that? It's much easier than, oh, let's go retrofit an entire fleet to put, you know, this aerodynamic feature on it. When software, you can, you know, now with over-the-air updates, you can just get it out there very quickly.
Right. No, and there is a difference though. There's some stuff you want to do at the time of purchase, right, in terms of setting your spec and that, but you do offer a lot of parameter updates. Not that fleets need to manage it day to day, but it offers that flexibility of like, oh, I can tweak cruise speed or max speed or those kind of things to be able to get, you know, that balance of efficiency and then keep your drivers happy for sure.
Exactly. So, oh, am I last? No, actually, no, it's such a big thing. Volvo recently came out with unlimited over the air because of that. We see the need, the request, because trucks, I mean, it could be domiciled here, it changes locations, it changes applications, it changes routes, and so many things need to change. You need that flexibility. It's, you know, you look at anything you have electronic today, based on what you're doing with it, you maybe change how it's set up. And so trucks are exactly like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I find that, you know, it takes a little bit on the fleet manager side just to get used to touching those assets remotely, right? I know there's a little bit of apprehension there. I think Volvo, years ago, when you first rolled out even over-the-air updates, did a good job of involving the call center to walk people through that. And I know that has kind of gone to the point where it's like, okay, you know, the training wheels are off. Fleets can go ahead and do that and they're comfortable with it. But for sure, definitely good features that fleets want to get accustomed to and comfortable with so that they can reap those benefits.
Yep, nope, you're exactly right. The training wheels are off. Let's go for it, but there's still the controls in place. Obviously, fleets, versus owner operators, you know, there's different needs. The fleets might want a little more control. They don't just want anything being downloaded onto the tractor. So there are those options in place for how that is controlled as well, and when the updates occur. But yeah, training wheels are off. It's all systems go for over-the-air downloads.
Very good. Allison, I appreciate you taking control of this interview. You did a fantastic job. Round of applause. I kind of fear like that you will get a call from my bosses and I will be out of a job soon. You did fantastic.
Thanks. This is fun. This is fun. I can see why you like doing this.
Yeah, no, you don't have to have any answers. You just get to ask questions.
Exactly.
It's all on the person there. I think I'm the first person in video interview history here at Fleet Equipment to be wrong, though. So I will gladly wear that mantle. I learned something today, and I appreciate it.
Thanks again, Jason.